Mostly Movies, where we mostly discuss movies mostly. I'm Dan Siri. We're doing a bit of a fall wrap-up before we get to the best of the year video, which will be sometime in January. I've still got a lot more movies to see. 2023 has not been a great year for movies by a long shot, but there was still a couple of impressive films, but there's still a few that are on my list to see before the end of the year. When it gets to crunch time towards the end of the year, I don't play around and just watch anything. Like, it has to be, something I really want to see that I think would be worthy or might end up on my top 10 list. We'll see when we get there. And again, lists are relative, not absolute, but I like to just pick out a couple of good movies each year. This year, so far, I don't even have a top 10. And even the ones that are on the list of the real good ones, I'm like, is this the best we can come up with this year? So we had the Criterion sale in November. Of course, I didn't get any titles because Criterion, I'm still broke. But like I said in my other video about how to enjoy the Criterion Collection on a budget, you can still watch a lot of these films on streaming, and many of them at low or no cost. I'd like to have gotten La Bamba or The Last Waltz, but these are movies that show up on Tubi, and these show up on Freevee and a couple of other free streamers, and a few of the pay ones too. But streaming, you got to be careful with because, the bandwidth, the quality is not as good as a disc. Some of the special features, although you can find them on YouTube. I was just listening to the commentary on Videodrome the other day, which was fantastic. Now, I've had that DVD for years, never listened to the commentary. But as I was driving around the last few days, I've been listening to Dave Cronenberg talk about it, and it's fascinating. Also, the Fear on Film interview with Cronenberg, John Carpenter, and John Landis is available on YouTube. I was just watching that recently, which is a great piece from the early 80s, right before The Thing was coming out, talking about, all the films and things, that these guys were working on at the time. And it was a good picture of these young directors when they were young and hungry. So the last Criterion titles I bought were in 2021, The Parallax View and Citizen Kane, which are great movies, a little on the depressing side, but a lot of Criterions are. As the economy has imploded in the past few years, a lot of us don't have the money for these movies anymore, but you can find some of them even on YouTube. If it's old, if it's in black and white and or subtitled, you could probably find all of them on YouTube. I was watching M on there the other day by Fritz Lang, and also Ingmar Bergman's film Persona is on YouTube, which I had not known until I read this interesting book called, so interesting I forgot the title. It's called How to Watch a Movie. I believe it's by Dave Thompson. But he even says in there, a movie like Persona is on YouTube. So it goes to show you that when movies reach a certain age, people just stop caring about them. If they're old movies, if they're subtitled movies, if they're foreign, people don't care about them anymore. Studios don't care about them because they figure we're not going to make any money off of this. We're not even making money off the new stuff. Canopy, which is a great streaming service, it's kind of like a highbrow version of Tubi. You can find several films in the Criterion Collection. They even have a page called the Criterion Collection, and you can find Ikiru, Bicycle Thieves, Seven Samurai, Wages of Fear, Breathless, Fires on the Plain, lots of stuff. If you go to Tubi, you can watch The Graduate, the original 12 Angry Men, 2 Criterion titles. You can also find titles from Shout Factory and Arrow, which are basically an alternative to Criterion, which they care about the preservation of these classic films, but they tend to have more of a geek slant on them. And I was just listening to the review of The Warriors today, the Arrow version, and it sounded very, very good. Who knows in July when the sale comes back for Arrow, what things will be like then. But the thing is, the quality is a little bit lower. There aren't really any extras unless you want to dig them up on YouTube. But they also stream in 720. But, I don't need basket case in 4K. I mean, 720 is okay. All right. So we're starting with Barbie, which I've just seen recently. I preface this film by saying to all women audiences, I am sorry. I really, really am. The movie business has failed you. In a summer where we have The Flash, Indiana Jones, Guardians of the Galaxy, Mission Impossible, Across the Spider-Verse, Oppenheimer, even another Ninja Turtle film, trying very hard to be Spider-Verse but not hitting it. All the girls get is Barbie, you know? And some of those guy movies I mentioned were rubbish, like The Flash and, Ninja Turtles, but still, women have very few options these days when it comes to movies. Used to get great romantic comedies, great dramas, even a few good crime thrillers. Now, all you really get, and it's all we get too, is basically a bunch of women playing dress up as male superheroes with no passion, rationality, or emotion of any kind. This is how a wokey tower of mediocrity like Barbie makes $1 billion. There's nothing else out there. It's sort of like The Phantom Menace. No one really likes the film, but it made millions and millions of dollars. It was the most successful of the prequels. Many Star Wars fans, including myself, we went over and over and over again. There was this bizarre subconscious thing about it, as if somehow the film would turn into something else on repeat viewing, or somehow it would be different. Basically, Barbie is similar to that. It's not even half as interesting as the little sidebar story from Toy Story 3 about Barbie and Ken. It is visually interesting and clever at the beginning, but then it quickly falls into this political, boring, illogical mess. My mom had seen it with my dad. She told me she turned it off halfway through. My wife fell asleep while we were watching it, and they were the lucky ones. Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling are good as always, but the script by Greta Gerwig and Noah Baumbach, talented people, is a laughable hipster mess of sloppiness. They were the wrong people for this project. Whole characters, ideas, storylines are introduced and they're either abandoned or twisted socio-politically. It isn't funny. It isn't coherent. The film even stops trying to look good later on. It abandons its own aesthetic and just looks drab and uglier as it goes on. The most insidious element is wasting actress America Ferrera as the mother who put her Barbies away because she had to grow up. Now, we could have had this great commentary on losing childhood to provide for our kids, like Mary Poppins. Instead, we get a lame sermon on how women have it under the patriarchy. Well, you have a nice home. You're married, so you at least share bills, if not medical insurance. You have a good job. You drive a nice car. Lady, you have it better than 99% of women living on this planet. Try living in Iran, Afghanistan, or the Sudan. Believe me, you'll have greater concerns than some gauche beta male trying to get you to watch Godfather 2. I mean, that's all there is to say, really. I don't make my watch Godfather. Do you think I'm going to ask my wife to watch The Godfather? No, of course not. And if you're an American male and you're 40 or over and you don't have The Godfather memorized, that at any time of the day you're having a rough day at work and all of a sudden you just got to hit play on that little film projector in your head and watch The Godfather in your head as you're just trying to get through a really long day at work, you're just doing it wrong. I mean, stop trying to get your wife to watch The Godfather. You should have that thing committed to memory, man. I mean, come on. Who doesn't? This movie, Barbie, does zero favors for women, and any woman who thinks that I'm just a chauvinist dummy and that this film is some kind of serious moment in cinema for women, that's the stupidity equivalent of me getting all excited over G.I. Joe, The Rise of Cobra. All right? So, horns down for Barbie. Now, Oppenheimer. It's frantic, it has too much music, a nonlinear story, and at least one character that cannot be understood without the use of subtitles. It must be a Chris Nolan film. Oppenheimer was the 12th feature by Nolan, and while it is good, really good, it's not great, it's not a masterpiece. It's your basic Best Picture winner biopic with strong performances, intriguing structure, but not much more. What makes this movie impressive, and I think what really elevates it a little bit more than that, is the editing. It's the way that the story is told and the flashbacks that make it much more interesting than it really is. It's too long, it's Oscar bait, and while it's not Nolan's best movie, he's done so many better movies, but this is his best one, I guess, in a while. And that does count, at least with the Academy. I don't care either way. To me, the movies he made 10, 15 years ago are just as strong and powerful to me today as they were when I first saw them. Like The Dark Knight is just as good now as it was in 2008. But to the Academy, it's considered, an old film. Now, this movie could win Best Picture, which doesn't mean what it used to mean at all. And I think Nolan has got Best Director, Downey's got Best Supporting Actor. They won't give this movie Best Picture because it doesn't fit into the new diversity requirements to win Best Picture anymore. Let's just say historical epics can no longer be historical unless you take a page from the Lin-Manuel playbook and Hamilton it up. But again, the Oscar doesn't mean anything anymore. It's become a participation trophy. Nobody cares about it anymore. Nobody watches the Oscars anymore. And to be honest with you, the last Oscars that was really worth watching was in 2004 when Return of the King won Best Picture. And it wasn't just because of Lord of the Rings, because it was a better time for movies. And nobody cares anymore about these stars. Nobody cares what they're wearing. It's just boring. It's so 20th century. But I digress. Big horns up for Oppenheimer. And those that are hailing it the salvation of cinema, it isn't quite that. In a year that Disney, long missing, has been declared dead, and the top grossing movies are Barbie and the Super Mario Brothers, I don't think there's any saving cinema. Prey. Oh my goodness. I rented this from the library. I didn't have Hulu anymore. So I rented Prey from the library, which is basically a prequel reboot, a pre-boot of Predator. It doesn't stand up to the original at all. You're in trouble in a movie when they can't even get the small details right. The original film took place in South America, where the Predator would only travel in the hottest summers. Yet here he is in chilly North America, just east of the Rockies, wearing less protective clothing. So the natives are dressed for summer, while some of the French trappers are wearing bearskins. If you can't get the simple things right, how can you get the story right? Oh, wait, you can't. Setting the film hundreds of years ago with a woman as the main character is a very intriguing opportunity. I was very much looking forward to this film, especially since the reviews were pretty good. Unfortunately, the film is dreadfully boring. The film is sort of like Evil Dead Rise. It has the ingredients there to make a good Evil Dead movie, but no heart, no sincerity. The original Predator had both of those, as well as action, suspense, and a logical story that didn't keep breaking its own rules. Again, this is a film with a female protagonist. It does women zero favors. Women deserve much better than a lame attempt to reboot a franchise that hasn't been good since Reagan was president. Horns down for Prey. Another horns down right ahead has just been a depressing episode. When Evil Lurks. Streaming on Shudder, one of the most celebrated horror films of the year, but not by me. The film follows two brothers who face an ex-apocalypse as demonic possession threatens their town. The film never establishes its rules or how possession works, why some catch the devil and others don't catch the devil. The film looks nice, it has some great scenes, but it never has a clear sense of its goals in mind and what it wants to do and what it wants to be. And this new trend of horror of neo-nihilism got old quick, and it was always boring and a bad idea. Ironically, I went to see this movie, which was the big celebrated horror movie of the year, did nothing for me. And to be honest with you, I had more fun turning on HBO Max and watching the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the beginning, from 2006, which was a prequel to the much-hated 2003 remake with Arlie Ermey. And I gotta say, that remake, first of all, is not bad. Of the remakes of the big horror films, there's much better than the remake of Friday the 13th, much better than the remake of Nightmare on Elm Street. And overall, it's pretty good. The prequel, though, however, Texas Chainsaw The Beginning from 2006, I really liked. Like, this was as good as, like, I would say Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. Unfortunately, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies are a very strange group. There's basically 3 different sets of them. And the reboot that they tried in 2013 was one of the worst. The one they did recently on Netflix, which was the Legacy sequel, was pretty bad. But these 2 entries, you know, from 2003 and 2006 didn't get a lot of attention, but I thought they did a pretty good job with them. It's kind of like the Rob Zombie Halloweens. Like, most people hate them, but I have a sort of an affection for them. So that's it for this episode. There'll be more on our Best of the Year video, and there's going to be a few surprises on that list. Going to be surprising to me, too, because I think I only have about 6 or 7 movies that I gave a 5-star rating to this year. This has been a very thin year. It's also been a very busy year. I've missed a lot of stuff, and I still didn't get a chance to see Godzilla -1, which is now... It's still in theaters, but it's showing at like 10 o'clock at night or like 4 in the afternoon, and it's like, I really wish they would have some like nice morning shows, especially since it's Christmas break and I'm not subbing this week. And there's literally nothing else out there that I'm interested in seeing. So that's it for this time. Anybody want to, comment, subscribe? We appreciate it. And one of the movies I really wanted to see this year that I missed, shame on AMC for only showing it one night, was The Abyss Director's Cut, which was a movie I've waited about 30 years to see. And then they just show it on a random Wednesday. It's like, thanks, guys. So see you soon, Mostly Movie fans, and keep watching Mostly Movies. Mostly. Thank you.